Sergeant Adelbert Waldron completed his training in the sniper program and immediately found himself in a tough spot. The Mekong Delta was swarming with Vietcong hiding in the rice fields and numerous canals. Every bush reeked of death. After a long and exhausting interrogation, a German spy finally cracked open. He said a special guest was coming to Stalingrad. The head of the Berlin sniper school, the Führer's bodyguard, was coming to finish off Vasily Zaitsev. Erwin Koenig was hunting him. $30,000 for his head. That was the price the Vietnamese army offered for the head of the White Feather, so nicknamed Carlos Heskok, one of the US Army snipers, for the white feather that never left his hat and always brought him luck. A Vietnamese sniper named the Cobra took on the job. As he killed Marines one by one, Heskok's heart ached. These guys are dying because of him. But the Cobra had done just that, and Heskok knew it. He tried to keep his cool, for at the time, any sign of feeling was deadly. Abdul was meticulous about every word the witness said. He was unusually calm, although this did not sit well with his nickname, the Terrible. But now his composure was more than appropriate. Abdul, like a real detective, investigated the murder of every Turkish soldier. He wanted to study the habits of the sniper thoroughly to fight him and avenge all the dead. Adelbert already had combat experience. He had served in the US Army for 12 years before Vietnam and had fought in the Korean War. But he first picked up a sniper rifle at a training camp before going to Vietnam. The enemy forces here had natural support: snakes, leeches, wasps, malaria mosquitoes, deadly germs. The Americans had never encountered them before. The military traveled through Vietnam in a boat, examining everything around them. Adelbert turned to his ears as night fell, listening for every sound. He knew that the enemy in these parts operated only at night. Adelbert was relatively safe, but knew that this was wrong. He was a sniper and had to act accordingly. Adelbert jumped off the boat to find a comfortable position to shoot. When one Soviet sniper in Stalingrad was wounded and the other had his sight broken by a bullet, it became clear Erwin Koenig was already in place and preparing to meet the main enemy. Zaitsev, together with his assistant, rushed to the place where they attacked the snipers. Usually, each shooter has an assistant who covers and distracts fire and helps the sniper determine the location of the enemy. And if Koenig was flawless, his assistant was far from perfect. He put a helmet on a stick and drove it into a trench, imitating a German squad. Koenig was confident that Zaitsev would shoot at the helmet, and it will quickly send him to the scrap heap of history. But Vasily immediately guessed the German major's plan. Zaitsev was overwhelmed with enthusiasm, but he did not think it would be so easy. But it turned out to be much more complicated. Vasily and his assistant stared into the void for the first 2 days, and it was not until the third day that they succeeded. Carlo Heskok invited the gunny to his cabin, but the gunny declined. It was damp, stuffy inside, mosquitoes were flying. Better to stand outside. Heskok insisted that one could never be too careful, for one never knew where an enemy bullet might come from. The gunny was about to object, but the commander's speech was cut short. His eyes were livid with regret for not heeding Heskok's advice. The sergeant lay on the ground with a death rattle, blood splattering the cabin's entrance. Heskok understood that the hunt was on, for he was a bone in the Vietnamese throat. But now things had become too personal, and Heskok vowed that he would avenge the enemy gunman at any cost. Together with his partner, he set out in search of Cobra. He crawled through the brush closer and closer to the enemy's hideout. Abdul mentally drew a dotted line from his fallen comrade in arms to the Australian trenches. A discreet, sly smile appeared on the Turkish sniper's face, and the anticipation of revenge gleamed in his eyes. Eureka! He realized where the best enemy sniper sat. Now, all that was left. The enemies were moving too fast. The night vision device allowed Waldron to navigate in complete darkness, but the Vietnamese quickly maneuvered in the bush. There was no time to aim, while Waldron thinks they will turn his guys into sieves. Albert confidently pressed the trigger, coolly transferring the rifle's muzzle from one enemy to another. The first fell, the second, the third. The enemy hesitated. They did not expect this. Vietnamese retreated and Waldron returned, proud and satisfied, with a smile that alone saved his own. But the real danger lay ahead. On the third day of Zaitsev's observation, Comrade Danilov checked on him. He guessed where Koenig was hiding and peeked out of the trench to point out to the right place to Vasily, but he was immediately shot. Danilov groaned in pain and collapsed back into the trench. Zaitsev wanted to rush to his aid but could not. The situation compelled him to keep his cool, in the best traditions of the harsh Russian winter. Heskok and his partner, John Burke, climbed a tree where dense foliage perfectly concealed the snipers. The main thing was not to make the slightest noise because Cobra was somewhere near. The slightest careless move and Heskok was dead. He aimed, and with the palm of his hand, he hit something wet. Damn, it was a rotten tree. Time to get out of it. Carlos hastily climbed down but couldn't hold on and fell. A shot rang out. As night fell, Abdul took up a comfortable position and waited. How many tempting targets did he come across? Those imprudent Australians did not care for themselves. They exposed themselves to the sniper's sights. But he could not fire. Abdul Grozny's main target was Billy Singh, and that was who the Turkish shooter was waiting for. If Abdul started to shoot the other soldiers one by one, the enemy would quickly deduce his location, which could not be allowed. Abdul hid in his position for several days until the fateful morning. For the last few days, Adalbert skillfully deceived the enemy into believing that an entire squad of soldiers was attacking them. However, Waldron acted alone. After killing several opponents, he would immediately run over to another part of the paddy field and attack from a new position. So when one night in the 20s of January 1969, Waldron took out 11 opponents in only 3 hours. On January 30th, he spent 8 bullets on 8 Vietcong. At one point, however, Adalbert himself was on the verge of death. Vasily Zaitsev proudly stroked the Order of the Red Banner on his chest. A couple of years ago, he had no idea that he would be legendary in Stalingrad by killing 110 men. That's no joke. Vasily took the medal off his chest and hid it deep into his pockets. Sunrise was coming up. Its dangerous rays could illuminate Zaitsev's location and give him away to the enemy. It was necessary to act, but Vasily allowed himself a few seconds of reflection. Where would he hide if he were in Koenig's place? The only attractive position, according to Zaitsev, was the recess under a curved steel plate. However, it was not worth shooting at random just yet. Vasily clearly understood that he had only one chance. If he missed, he would never again be able to read articles about himself in Soviet newspapers. Zaitsev pulled the mitten off his hand. Frost hit his skin. I do not care. I will warm up later. Zaitsev put the mitten on the board and lifted it above him. The bullet instantly shot through it. Now it was clear where the enemy was lurking. But it was dangerous to shoot now. We'd have to wait for the night. The bullet hit Deputy Heskok's canteen. They were damn lucky to be alive, but they had no time to rejoice. They were at a point from which Cobra had shot at Burke's flask, and Cobra himself was beside a rotting tree. He must have wanted to record his victory, but he was disappointed to find nothing but rotting branches. Both shooters simultaneously realized where to aim now. They grabbed their weapons, and a moment later, Heskok saw the glint of the lens. Click! The breathless body of Cobra fell on the green Vietnamese grass. Billy Singh's deputy whispered that he saw an object. Billy instantly rushed towards him and saw the enemy's face and his rifle through the periscope lens. With these movements, he gave himself away to the Turkish shooter. Out of nowhere, several bullets flew into the side of the boat. Another Vietcong detachment? No, this time a sniper was working, and Waldron was obviously the target. Adalbert's experienced eye could tell at once where the shot was coming from. A sniper perched on top of a palm tree. The boat was at full speed. It was dangerous to stop. There was no time to consult with his comrades, and hitting the target from a moving boat was almost impossible, but it was worth a try. Waldron grabbed his rifle and fired. A dead Vietnamese sniper fell from a palm tree 900 yards from the boat. Albertson saved everyone once more. Lying under the steel plate, Koenig was very cold, but it was the only way to take Zaitsev out, and it seems that the long wait was rewarded. A helmet appeared from the trench. Koenig instantly pulled the trigger. The enemy jumped up and collapsed into the trench. The Major raised his head victoriously. A split second later, Zaitsev's bullet pierced it. These stories of sniper duels are admirable, but there is a version that one of them is just a myth created to boost morale. Which one? Write in the comments.